Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Andrea Fryrear. She is CEO and co-founder at AgileSherpas. We're going to talk about what she does. She's in Boulder, Colorado today. This podcast presented by podfire.com. That is my podcast scaling company. If you want to monetize podcasting, if you want to scale it, because a bunch of people start pods, they don't continue because there's no money. They have fun doing it, but there's no cash. So I help them have a capitalist back into their pod so that they can scale to the sky. Podfire.com for that. Andrea, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Agile Sherpas.
Sure, yeah. So I am a marketer by trade. Was in content marketing and content strategy before I got bitten by both the agile and entrepreneurial bugs. So I worked at a software company, noticed that their software developers were a lot more effective and a lot less stressed out than my marketing team. Figured out that what they were doing differently was this thing called Agile. And I learned what it meant and how to do it, and taught the rest of my marketing team how to do that. And basically wouldn't shut up about it after that. I wrote a lot, spoke a lot, published a couple of books, and got to the point where a lot of people were asking me to help them do the same thing. So I started a business. That's what AgileSherpas is. Now we have a team of about 15 who help marketing teams of all shapes and sizes figure out how to do better work faster and be happier by using Agile.
So what's the correlation of doing better work faster and happiness?
When we use Agile well, it allows us to focus on the most important work. And so you get the opportunity to really zero in on a handful of critical activities and do them to the best of your ability, right? And that's really what knowledge workers find rewarding, right? The autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And when all we're doing is racing around with, putting out fires and whatever the thing is that's most scary and urgent and just doing those things, we really don't get the opportunity to do amazing work or master any particular skills and capabilities. And it makes us burned out and dissatisfied. And so Agile really helps zero in, and it allows you to do the work that matters instead of just the most urgent and on fire thing.
Well, what's new in Agile? Because the first time I heard about Agile was probably 7 years ago, early startup. It was a concept that was applied to software teams instead of waterfalls. They can move fast and sort of break things. Everyone has their little role, and apparently it's a team that functions way better and faster. I've never really experimented with it. You need to have high quality team members. I guess that was the problem with the teams that I was building before. But what's the new concept here with new trends that we're seeing in 2023? And basically, is Agile still cool? And what is the evolution of Agile?
I think Agile's still cool, but I'm sure there are people that would argue with me about that. It does require a different way of thinking about work, a different way of thinking about teams and value delivery. And so it got started in software development because it used to take software developers, 18 months, 2 years to deliver a meaningful update to software. And then when they finally put it out, nobody really wanted it anyway. And so Agile was the answer to iterative value-based delivery. It's been around for over 20 years now in software, but as it became more universally adopted by developers, they stopped being the bottleneck, right? They could deliver software really fast, but then you have functions like marketing or procurement or HR that can't keep up. And so Agile's really started migrating to other parts of the business that have become the bottleneck to customer value delivery. And marketing is oftentimes that bottleneck because we are the voice, right, of whatever's being built and developed. We need to tell people about it in a way that is relevant and meaningful and drives them to take action. Buy the thing, fill out the form, talk to a sales rep, whatever the conversion point is. Marketing has to work to sell the thing that's being built. And so it's a really ideal application point for Agile ways of working to keep removing the biggest impediment to organizational success. So it's starting to become more business agility, right? The entire organization needs to move in this way, think in this way, plan this way, and not just the folks that are building a digital product.
Right. Teams that you work with, like, give me a better size of your ICP and what do you do precisely with how many team members and at what price point?
Yeah, we tend to work with larger marketing organizations, 40 or 50 marketing employees or more, because those organizations are big and complex and difficult to change. And we add a lot of value to those kinds of efforts. So we help evaluate whether or not the existing processes are working and what is most broken about them. And then we develop a iterative improvement plan in partnership with our clients, right? So we call it a transformation backlog, right? We're not trying to boil the ocean or use a waterfall approach to this. We want to be iterative and get value coming out the door quickly. And so that often requires education. So we do training and workshops to teach people what they don't know about how Agile really works. And then we also, the Sherpa is part of our name, right? We're going to go along with you on this journey. We're going to help you climb the mountain through coaching and consultative engagement as well. So as the people who learned new things are applying them, we're there day to day to help them do it. And then we also work with senior leadership because they have to lead differently. They can't just control everything and dictate people's daily activities anymore. They have to show up differently themselves. And so we work across the org chart to help make sure that all these investments in training and tools and new team compositions are going to pay off and stick and not be just, one more change that people get asked to do and then they fall back into old habits. So bigger teams are kind of our ICP, but we do work with smaller organizations where there's 10, 15, 20 marketers there because that's a much more quick, straightforward engagement, right? We're going to train you, we're going to coach you, we're going to help make sure your tools are set up the right way, and then you can kind of start running on your own much faster. So that's going to be more like a 3 to 6 months engagement, whereas a big transformation across a whole organization, you're probably looking at a couple of years worth of work.
Right. And what's the price point with you? Is it like per head, $1,000 per head over a period of 3 to 6 months, or how does it look like?
It really varies a lot depending on how deep the client wants to go and how fast, right? And so some folks like to really invest in training and get a full certification for everybody on their team. And that's going to be a more expensive investment than if you did we have online learning, right? That doesn't include time with a live instructor. That's going to be a lower investment, but it's not as great, right? The likelihood that it will stick is a little bit lower because you don't have the opportunity to interact with a real person. And then some people have internal coaching resources that they want to leverage and not use us. So it's hard to put a per head number on it because it just depends on where people want to invest more heavily. People who want to go really fast. I've worked with teams that are smaller, like 30 or 40. They're like, nope, we want to do it. We want to get in, we want to get out. And that requires a lot more time from us up front to make the transformation move faster. And so that increases the price as well.
And what's the average contract price? Are we talking 15, 30K per contract?
Our average entry point is going to be around 50. But that's for a smaller engagement. And then again, it just depends on a bigger team, a faster moving implementation. We just go up from there.
How do you contact these big companies? Because I guess the sales cycle's 8 to 12 months, right? 50K and up, something like that.
No, much faster for us, actually. Okay. We are a content shop since I was a content marketer early on. So we have a huge library of content that people engage with really heavily. And so by the time they are in really a sales motion with us, they've done a lot of their homework, right? They understand what Agile is. They have a good idea of what they want to do. And so our job is really just to partner with them in the sales conversation to make sure that they're getting the right thing to solve the problem that they need. And so, yeah, I'd say we're more in the like 3-month sales cycle for a smaller deal. I think our world record is something like 4 weeks of, initial conversation to a signature. I love content, right? It does so much of the selling for you. And so then our sales conversations are easier.
I think that's the fastest sales cycle I've ever heard for that ticket size. So yeah, congrats on that. It's quite interesting. So content on LinkedIn, content on the website, SEO, right? Do you also do outbound? What does it look like, your sales funnel?
We have only just started investing in outbound really in the last quarter or two. We've been heavily inbound from the start. I do a lot of speaking, right? Podcasts, events, and the team, we have an amazing team who is very prolific. We publish on our blog. We have a YouTube channel. We put everything out on social for distribution. We have a newsletter. So we're really invested heavily in creating a lot of value and putting it out in as many places as we can, so that we reach the biggest audience. And then, like I said, by the time that they're coming to us, they fill out a contact form on the website. They say, I've got this problem. I think you might be able to help. And we get a meeting and we're off to the races.
Very interesting. Now, corporate, sometimes it can seem a bit boring to work in corporate because these are slow moving companies. There is some bureaucracy, like and that's the front side of it, that's my biased opinion, or perception or misconception. What is the other side of the metal? What's the iceberg that we don't see? Why is this fun?
Why is it fun for the people
for
on
you?
The great side?
For you, like, yeah, corporate, me, I'm fast moving startup type of guy, immediate results. Working with corporate would be somewhat of a nightmare for me. I don't like waiting. I don't like for approval. I don't like signing NDAs. I'm not, my mouth is not shut upable. I value freedom of speech, and it seems that corporate is pretty much the opposite of most of what I stand for. So how is that, like the right perception? How do you have fun working with these giants?
We're able to help a lot of people, right? They have big teams at these giant, multi-billion-dollar enterprises. And so we can make a big impact on the professional lives of a lot of humans, right? And so when we can go in and make people like their jobs again and make them feel valued, it's a really great reason to get out of bed in the morning, right? And so we hear all the time from team members that we coach, their leadership, to how the joy is back, right? They enjoy their jobs again and they feel valued in the organization, and being able to contribute to that in a small way is really rewarding. And also the really big and complex enterprises, it's a really fun problem to solve as a consultant, right? It's challenging, it's interesting. There's a lot of recurring patterns in the difficulties that they face, but each one has a different flavor, a different nuance. And so as a consultant, you're never really working the same thing over and over again. And that's an interesting, you're never bored. But yeah, the procurement is often just a big hurdle, takes much longer than you want. There's a lot of restrictions, but yeah, it's the trade-off that we've chosen to make. And then we do work with smaller teams and smaller organizations sometimes. So it is nice to mix it up, right? And get in there and get to do something that's more move fast and break things.
So what's your vision with the company itself? Where do you want to take it? And where do you want to take your life with that? Because obviously it's a lucrative agency, it's a very lucrative niche. How do you want to use that for yourself and flourish as an individual over the next 5 to 10 years?
I feel like that answer changes every week or so these days. I'm a first-time entrepreneur. This is my first business. We're 6.5 years old now. And so I still love running the business, and I feel like I learn something new all the time. And for me, that's what drives me personally, is growth and continual learning, continuous development. And I think as long as I'm still satisfied and pushed in running the business, that will be great, and I will be happy doing that. I have big aspirations for us. I'd love for us to really like change the world of marketing, change the way people see marketing, change the way everybody works inside the entire profession. It's a big goal, and you know, it's going to require some big steps to be taken in the future. But I won't pretend that I know exactly what those are. I just know that we will keep solving the next hard problem and see where that takes us.
How do you pick your team members on your side, and how do you keep them agile?
We are fortunate that our content and our brand reputation brings us a lot of amazing applicants as well. So we usually have a queue of 3 or 4 really qualified folks waiting in the wings. And because we require a very particular skill set, you need to have had experience in marketing, and you also need to know and understand Agile. And so that Venn diagram intersection isn't huge. There's not an infinite number of people, although it's growing, you know, as Agile gets more accepted in marketing, more people have that both experiences. So yeah, it's about balancing for us of what do our clients need, what can we support from a hiring perspective, and then yeah, finding people that really fit that combination of experiences, because that's our brand promise, right, to our clients, is that you will get a consultant or a trainer who has been in your shoes and knows what it's like to be you and can teach you what you need to know. So we have to hire very, very carefully for our client-facing roles. And then we drink our own champagne, right? When it comes to being agile with the team, we do daily stand-up every day. We run 2-week sprints. Everything that happens with our client-facing Sherpas, as well as those of us that are kind of behind the scenes doing marketing or operations, gets run through Asana. We visualize our work. We limit work in progress. Like we do everything that we teach our clients, you know, to varying degrees of success. We aren't perfect, but we do our best to practice what we preach.
What challenges have you faced in the last couple of years? Guessing COVID was one for pretty much everyone. And how did you resolve these stressful events?
COVID was actually a major growth point for us, because we used to travel to be in person with all of our clients, which put a constraint on how many people we could serve at any given time, because you have to fly there and you have to, you know, do everything in person. But when COVID hit, everything was able to transition to virtual and online delivery. And so we went from being able to serve, you know, 2 clients a week to doing 10 trainings a day. Right. And so it was a major scale point for us. So it was challenging because it was so much growth so fast. But, you know, we leaned in hard on that. Honestly, this past year has been more challenging from a business perspective for us, in terms of our clients have felt constrained. You know, their budgets are being questioned and in some cases cut. They might be losing headcount. You know, a lot of marketing teams felt the budget pinches themselves this year, and they passed that along to vendors and partners like us. And so a lot of folks want to work with us, but they have to kind of wait a little while or de-scope what they're able to do. And so keeping good visibility into you know, our own pipeline of work, our own payroll and overhead expenses, and trying to keep those things in check has been really a constant balancing act this year, in a way that it hasn't when we were just you know, we were just trying to grow and keep up with demand for years and years. So that was a different set of problems and a different kind of challenge that we faced this year, as a lot of people were dealing with the uncertainty of 2023.
And what about clients that are not satisfied, or you're dealing with a decision maker that is not too cooperative? Like, what do you do in those situations, or a team member that does not perform?
We've been fortunate not to have a ton of those experiences in our lifespan so far. Um, Everybody that we work with, at least, people that work on the client facing side for us, come with a high degree of emotional intelligence. Usually they are themselves coaches and agile trainers. And so they talk about hard conversations and how to have them, right? And how to deal with difficult situations at work. And so for the most part, we're able to navigate those reasonably well ourselves. There are always clients who have their own challenges, and we get pulled into those, and that's the role of a consultant, is you kind of get sucked into the drama of other people. But again, I think it comes down to open and honest communication whenever possible, and not pretending that there's not a problem, but really facing the problem early and being respectful and transparent in the way that you communicate about it. And like I said, we're fortunate to have a lot of people that are really good at that in an organization full of Agilists. And so we lean into that when we need to.
Fantastic. So what would be your top 3 goals for 2024?
2024, I am always trying to make us as I'm a CEO pretty much full time these days, and I don't spend as much time with our clients. And so I feel a great deal of responsibility for making sure that the business is healthy, right? We have good cash flow, good forecasting, solid budget, growth plan for my employees, so that they feel like they're growing in their own professional careers here. Those are really big objectives for me, is continuing to build a solid business foundation so that the people who are working and doing amazing stuff with our clients can keep doing that. Right. And I would put on the top 3 list, continuing to figure out how to be more tech enabled, right? We do a lot of virtual trainings, and that's kind of the easy checkbox, but there's more interesting and sophisticated ways to use technology to make ourselves more efficient, to serve more clients. That's something that we'll have to work on as we continue to grow and scale. And then I think, third one, I'd put continuing to grow the team, right? Figuring out, we have people who specialize in certain areas, and to keep them developing, right? And broadening their own skills and capabilities. We talk a lot about T-shaped people or cross-functional people. So continuing to build out the cross-functionality of our team. Definitely important.
Talked about tech stacks, which is also a focus of mine and various entrepreneurs in my masterminds. What AI tech stack have you integrated that has saved you tons of time, energy, and money?
I will admit to being not a full drinker of the AI Kool-Aid yet. I use ChatGPT here and there, right, to support content. I use it very sparingly when it comes to writing. I'm not a huge fan of it in my own writing processes, but we've used it in some social media stuff. We dabble, right? But I would say it's not an integral part yet of what we do. I think that there's opportunity there, but it's not a critical component for us yet.
So what systems or mental habits have you adopted then that had huge outmeasured impact on your business?
I am a big believer in limited work in progress and reducing context switching as much as possible. So I've used a personal Kanban board for, 7 or 8 years now, and I will religiously limit myself to 2 active work items. So I have an in progress column. It cannot have more than 2 things in it. And that might be, right, prepare for this podcast and do slides for my town hall later. Right? That might be my 2 things. And I can't add a third until I finish one of those. It's not that those are the only 2 things I will do all day, but I will not try to do 10 things simultaneously, right? Because then the 1 hour that I have to work on something gets cut up into 10 little tiny pieces. Nothing gets done. So I'm a big believer in that. And it's been a lot. It served me really well when the business was small and growing really fast. And now when I have a lot of people who report to me and I have to ping pong around to a lot of different parts of the business.
I had the inventor of Kanban on my podcast 7 days ago. So yeah, huge believer in Kanban, GTD methodology. Also, I had the guy on my pod. He was quite the odd individual a year and a half ago, but quite instructive, very zen, very mindful about everything. That's what I like. A very clear thinker, which is aligned with the lean and agile philosophy. Andrea, thank you so much for the knowledge you've shared today. Where can people find out more about you?
AgileSherpas.com. I'm all over there. And Andrea Fryrear is a very unusual name. So that's my handle just about everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm in all the places.
There you go. That was Charles Cormier, your host, and Andrea Fryrear for another CEO Wisdom Podcast.com.